Hi, I'm Esther.
And I'm Sean.
I write about AI news here at TechTarget.
And I edit Esther's stories.
We're here to talk to tech experts about everything AI, from open and closed models to AI agents and who's ahead in the generative AI race.
And even the elusive AGI.
We've got it covered, right, Sean?
Yep, we've got it covered.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Targeting AI podcast. Today, we're speaking to Habib, co-founder and CEO of Writer, an AI platform. Writer provides customers with a full-stack generative AI platform that helps enterprises generate written content. Its Palmyra LLMs are built for enterprise workflows. Thank you so much for joining us today, May.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. So we want to start by focusing just a little on your background. How did you get your start in the technology business? And have you always wanted to found and build your own business?
Yeah, I've always been entrepreneurial. I've always thought about running and growing something very meaningful, and have always been interested in technology from a young age, for sure. Before founding my first company, I tried it on the other side, investing in tech companies. I like that a lot less, and yeah, left to start our first company, Cordoba. I guess I was beginning of my late 20s.
That was actually going to be my next question because you founded Cordoba before you founded Writer. What was Cordoba about? What lessons did you learn in finding that? Are you using that you are now using in being the co-founder and CEO of Writer?
Yeah. So it was a machine translation startup, and we really rode kind of every wave of NLP then as well, and that led us to Transformers, which was transformational, and we started Writer to really build a transformer first company. And work on English language. So it did feel like a departure at the time, honestly, and one that was very tough because it was a break with a mission that both me and Wasim felt very attached to, one of making it really a non-issue what language you were born speaking. And I do actually think machine translation is now solved, which is so exciting, thanks to us and many others. And we now have a technology, Transformers, that is capable of so much, translation being one of those problems. We also learned a ton about building and growing a business on the people front, who to hire, how to manage them, who do you want around you, who do you want investing in you. So it was a great first run. Very tough, felt very long, was a slog, honestly, but it's definitely helped Writer go so much faster that we had all those lessons.
Okay, so before we get into your technology a little deeper, how did the idea for Writer itself come about? And you started right before ChatGPT was released, so the generative AI was here, transformers were here, neural networks were here, but it wasn't as easy to use or powerful as it became quickly in
Well,
22.
we started years before ChatGPT. So we started in 2020, and it was great. So many of our early customers, Accenture, others said, "Look, we felt like geniuses when ChatGPT came out because everyone was like, thanks to you, we've been using this." So we definitely benefited from the whole world talking about this, and it no longer being anywhere near as risky to think about AI in these mission critical workflows. So we pioneered the enterprise category for generative AI, and it definitely has a lot to do with the fact that we got to start not just 2 years ahead of everybody in 2020, but a decade ahead. My co-founder and I have been in the NLP space for a long time. And for so much of what we've built with this full stack platform, that depth of language technology has been critical to building all the microservices that we have wrapped the LLM with to create a full stack platform.
Thanks for that.
So it seems like you just continue to move right along as soon after ChatGPT was created, right? Because so was there any changes that you felt you had to make? Because when I remember that time, obviously you said you started in 2020, but after 2022, there was kind of this resurgence. It seems like everyone woke up and everyone became an AI company, so to speak. There was all these GPTs popping up. So was there anything that you felt you had to shift or you had to do in order to keep your business moving along?
Yeah, so what ChatGPT did was really expose this UX pattern of the chat that we hadn't been experimenting with. So with Writer, we were building really app interfaces. Think of them as kind of mini generative AI applications, and in a lot of ways, the chat interface was a red herring. Right, we went and started exploring that because this is what folks started asking for, and it was like, no, 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 for the vast majority of use cases, that actually is not the right interface, and we went back to what we were doing. Now, certainly for customer support types of use cases, chat has been fantastic. Knowledge retrieval, it has been fantastic, but for these kind of big um, nodes in a workflow that are very knowledge intensive, that are very know-how intensive, you know folks understand and know what the business process should be, and they don't want to have to repeat a chat to get there. They kind of want to upload the things that they need and get back what they need, press a button type of interface versus, let me describe my life story to a chatbot. So, you got to be a lot more discerning. And the fact that we had been doing it for, a few years, exploring these use cases for customers with generative AI allowed us to, benefit from what the chat GPT moment definitely exposed to everybody, while also staying focused on what gave customers the most value.
Okay, so you started in 2020. Your valuation has increased a lot to, I think, to 1.9 billion or probably more, and you recently raised 200 million. So, how do you explain the eagerness of investors to bet on you, and why has your technology been as successful as it has?
Yeah, so investor success is all about customer success. And for us, that has been reflected in just a remarkable renewal rate in the high 90s, which is just unheard of. Remarkable expansion rate, over 150% NRR, only growing, which is also off the charts. And the value for us really is in piecing together what is very, very tough technology. It's LLMs plus retrieval, plus guardrails, plus orchestration, with a very easy to use application builder that allows both the AI engineers that have got a lot of technical depth to collaborate with the business users who have a lot of process depth, right, in the process that they're trying to bring generative AI to. And with a lot of development, it's kind of either or, and folks are either doing like a full engineering build where you got to go through an engineer and a Jira ticket to change one word of a prompt. Um, or these no code tools that are kind of late breaking, infusing generative AI that aren't really purpose built to make use of just the latest and greatest building blocks, and tying them all together. So we're doing that, and the result is an application that would have taken 9 months to build. I'll give you an example. This is an amazing customer, Sirius MD. They do telehealth. They had spent months trying to build a set of features that allowed their doctors to spend just less time going through the admin of somebody's medical history and tying that to regulation and best practices. Writer surfaces these insights for them while they're having that conversation. And after months of trying, right, to build this solution on their own, we got it up and running for them in a matter of a few short weeks. And so it's just a huge delta when you can bring together that full stack solution that is purpose built for all of the tools that you need to build a generative AI application, versus what's happening today for these sophisticated apps that enterprises need to move the needle. They're stitching together really a complicated stack. So, the fundraising success, Sean, really came down to folks seeing in the numbers what they weren't seeing anywhere else in generative AI.
I think that's interesting because my next question was going to be like for you, because we've all heard the phrase full stack platform or full stack generative AI platform. What do you think that is your definition, or what makes something a full stack generative AI platform?
So, in in tech, I think you really should only use the words full stack if, you know, for whatever is the dominant design of the paradigm you're building for, Your product has all those things. And in the world of building AI applications, workflows, agents, these as the large language models become more capable, what you can do with what you build becomes more capable. Everything that you need needs to be in the box. And so right now, that is the need to connect LLMs to business process, LLMs to data, LLMs to an application that users can actually interact with. And that might be an API because it's a feature that gets built into something else. But like you need to be able to easily create those keys to deploy, etc. um, Orchestration, reporting, eval, all of the things that customers require to be able to take a chatbot to 3,500 loan officers, right, in a call center. How do I know what kind of questions they're asking? How do I know if it's right? Right. This is non-deterministic technology, so you need a way to really audit that you are producing highly reliable, consistent results. The vast majority of AI that all of us have interacted with today, you ask it the same question at night, and in the morning, you're getting different answers. And that's not cutting it for enterprises, especially not in these mission critical use cases.
Okay, thanks. So one of the things Esther has written about Writer, your company, is that you focus on multilingual models. So why is it so important for LLMs to be multilingual?
Yeah. So every customer we work with, from Mars to L'Oreal, I mean, virtually every enterprise customer operates in multiple geographies. And so even as, we help largely American HQ'd companies be successful, right? It's just enormously important for all of their global offices to get on this too, right? For competitive reasons, for equity reasons, and what's amazing is the international offices, it just like they take to it so quickly. And with so many of our global deployments, it has been Canada, it's been Mexico, it's been France, it's been the UK, it's been India that's been like, gimme, gimme, gimme. And I get it now, actually, that we've seen it time and time again. They don't have the budgets. They don't necessarily always have the agency relationships or budget to be able to like get everything they need done. They don't get the headcount, and so it has been incredibly uplifting to the international offices of the customers that we sell to have Writer be able to operate in multiple languages. So this is all because Palmyra, our family of models, has training data in multiple languages, and we do our eval and red teaming, etc., in multiple languages. We publish the IBM Blue scores for 30 plus languages. So it's very exciting to kind of see both threads of our professional lives kind of come together with um, transformers being so good at the translation problem. And honestly, we've seen companies in a weekend rebuild what me and Wasim had built, spent 4 years building, right, in our first company. The 80/20 of it, but multilingual training data and models that can really be as good in dozens of other languages as they are in English is something everybody should strive for. We're not always as good in every language. Certainly, it is definitely a scale, but we're working on it.
Yeah, I think that was gonna be my next question. You keep just jumping right on. But I guess there is a need for accuracy, and you mentioned red teaming, right? So how do you make sure your models remain accurate as well as compliant, especially because you are creating to enterprises in different countries, like you mentioned?
Yeah, the question is really compliant with what, Esther? And we've got customers who want to understand, where we are on their ESG policies. And so we walk them through how our models are one-eighth as efficient as the hyperscaler models, just as powerful, a lot of times more powerful, but trained and run on a lot less energy. So we really want to make sure that we are compliant with folks' ESG guardrails and guidelines. On bias and toxicity, we are one of the only companies that publishes how our models do on really key benchmarks for bias and toxicity, which means customers can, if they choose to, um, uh, um, kind of modulate against that. We are very transparent about the provenance of our training data, and the distribution of that training data also rank as the highest closed source model, right? Because we're not, our core models are not open source, our leading edge models are not open source on the Stanford Foundation Model Transparency Index. So, for us, compliance really reflects what it is that the customer needs us to be compliant about. In generative AI, there's absolutely a trade off between privacy and utility as well. And so, there are a lot of customers who, want to be able to understand how their users are using the product. And, we enable them to put that monitoring on. We are very flexible when it comes to data residency. That's literally built into the product. That's got a lot of compliance considerations as well, and implications.
Okay, so building off of Esther's question, what are your general thoughts on regulation? Can you talk a bit about how you comply with the EU AI Act? And also, what responsibility do LLM providers have to provide responsible models? Should your industry partner with federal regulators or try to shape the form of federal regulation, or is it going okay as it is? Or please talk a little bit about that stuff.
Yeah. There's no question that the US, by being low regulation on generative AI, has leapfrogged ahead of the rest of Europe. And we've got an office in London. There are some incredibly, incredibly forward-thinking executives there who take risk, who invest in innovation. But it's just at another level when you are in New York City or you're in San Francisco. The American executive class, as it comes to driving their teams to invest in generative AI and figure out how to make the company wildly competitive with AI, it borders on manic in America. And I think in the US, in the EU rather, we're getting ready to comply with the EU AI Act. We've got to be compliant by August 25. We have laid out everything that we need to do and are making progress towards that. So we have every intention of abiding by the entirety of the act in all of the markets that we operate in, including the US. That becomes really the global standard. And I would not be surprised, Sean, if new leadership in the EU takes real notice of the fact that the just corporate sector in the EU, I would even put UK in that, is a lot more hesitant of AI because of uncertainty around regulation, and is as a result likely to become less competitive than their American peer group. And so I do think that we are likely to see, if not a rollback, then um, some announcements on what happens to enforcement post August 2025. Because I'll give you the smallest kind of practical anecdote of why it would be impractical to have this level of regulation. We, a few weeks ago, started talking about our self-evolving models. These are models that can learn from a session with a user and update their training data in real time, which is so, so cool. So that model that I have submitted my compliance information on as of August 2025 literally changes in real time. So who do I submit that updated, you know, knowledge to? And do we really think that 200 data scientists sitting, you know, in Brussels are going to be able to, in real time, audit all of these companies? I just think we need a different framework for how we think about generative AI safety. And, whatever that framework is, whatever is the law of the land, we're going to be following it.
Just to pivot a little bit to what, or to kind of go a little bit into what we are discussing before pivoting to training data. Um, I wonder what you think is the responsibility, right? Is it your responsibility as an LLM provider to make sure that the models are responsible yourself, especially in light of such little regulation in the US? Or should it just be that we just leave that responsibility slowly to the government? And I ask this in light of recent events, or in light of, like, have you heard of some hiccups that happen when we leave when it seems like the LLMs run on by themselves? I was recently at the AI summit and someone mentioned, well, what happens when the model makes a decision about a customer, which leads to, like, the outcome is that someone's privacy ends up being, like, infringed upon, right? So who's responsible in that instance, especially as you are in the business of being an LLM provider?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the LLM companies like us have a large role to play for sure. And the customer who is applying the LLM to the kind of functionality that you described has certainly got a role. Now, we are an enterprise sales driven company. And so, we know what our customers are trying to do with our models. Somebody who is trying to buy the models to write erotica, we know about it. Someone is trying to buy the technology to be able to write, wrestling scripts. We know about it. Someone who is trying to buy the models to make automated insurance coverage decisions, we know about it. And so our ability to say, look, for automated decision making where lives are at stake, this is how we would recommend you build the solution with a human in the loop, et cetera, et cetera. So, from a misuse perspective, beyond that point, the companies absolutely, have a role to play from a responsibility perspective. But we go far beyond what the regulations say in making sure that, in keeping with both the law and our own, yes, it's personal ethics, we are selling to the folks that we trust to build responsible solutions.
Pivoting now to training data. What training data do you use? What is your thought on data ownership and the way we share data?
So we have everything that we say about our training data on our website. So quite transparent in terms of the way that we synthesize data, the way that we collect and not collect customer data. We're pretty different, Esther, than a lot of models out there in that we're largely synthetic data driven. We pioneered this technique, and it has led to some very, very powerful and very efficiently trained models. And for us, yes, absolutely, internet scale data is in our models as well. But we are really confident and have published this via the Stanford Transparency Index and other HAI um, initiatives, that the percentage of copyrighted content in our models is de minimis. And that's certainly by design. I think we definitely saw the copyright issues die down a lot, and not because we really got to any kind of closure, but more that we got a sense of what would come if uh, the law got pushed. I do think you know we are at Writer trying to indemnify folks and kind of build legal confidence in this space by pioneering the research on synthetic data. And that has definitely been very welcome by our enterprise customers who haven't had to worry about a lot of the things that they worry with others. We give people a random billion token sample of our training data so they can audit what we say about bias and toxicity and copyright themselves, again, which tends to be pretty appreciated by the AI governance teams.
I find that interesting because it seems like what you're saying is you're pretty open in terms of your training data, right? You have it on your website. You show people so that they can audit it. I wonder if you've ever considered just making it publicly open. Or, I mean, you mentioned earlier that obviously Writer is not an open source company, or even like open in terms you of like open weights, but have you considered that as well?
About half our models in our model family, Esther, are open source and on Hugging Face. So the only models that are closed are just the leading edge ones. But as with every big step function change in capability, there's still a lot of stuff that hasn't been implemented that the older models could do. So plenty of people, we meet lots of people who are using our models for free every week.
Okay, so how do you make LLMs write better? How do you make them better writers? And also, the users of writing tools and LLMs, or any kind of generative AI created stuff, should they have to disclose that they're using AI to on with certain documents to their audiences?
So writing better is a small set of use cases that our customers use us for today, Sean. But certainly, one of my favorite outcomes in a POC is that inevitable survey of choose who wrote it, right? Which one's better? And AI wins. I have never seen AI not win because we're training on we're building these apps on what the policy is, what the business process is, what kind of awesome looks like, and a lot of times awesome wasn't what was being produced. When it comes to the best writers in the company, there's just very little that we're making better about their writing. It's their process we're making better. It's their research that we are making better. It's how much they can get out, right? It's how well it performs. It's how well it gets distributed. But there's absolutely no question that what we are trying to do, um, when it is writing use cases, right, or we're producing reports, etc., is trying to get everybody to be writing at how the best folks in the company are writing. Um, for us, the name of the company is Writer because if you can write it, you can describe it, you can build it, and folks are building just incredible applications with Writer, from data analytics to claim adjudication to loan underwriting.
I was actually going to ask you that. So, what are your customers' main use cases? You know, if writing per se is only a small amount, what's the dominant application or applications?
Sean, the killer apps for generative AI really vary by industry. In CPG, I would say product development, consumer research, consumer insights is huge. In retail, it is inventory, it is digital shelf, it's returns processing and minimization. In asset management, it's investor reporting, it is um, market commentaries and insights on companies in a portfolio. In financial services broadly, diligence, company deep dives, research, equity research. So, it really depends, not just on sector, but even subsector, which is what makes a platform like ours so powerful for the enterprise. It's quite multi-purpose. A full stack solution is, and so for these really important process driven, data intensive, know how intensive use cases where processes aren't really written down, and to get AI to do what you want it to do, you've got to be able to collect and manage that somehow. Writer is a really good choice.
Previously, Writer introduced voice. It's a capability of aligning a writer's voice or style using AI. While this could be helpful, this can also be a dangerous tool, especially for bad actors and scammers. How do you prevent that?
Yeah, I mean, we're not selling any bad actors, Esther, and I hope that doesn't feel like a cop out. I mean, we're a sales driven company, so if our salesperson is talking to a mole, then they know it. Um, it is enormously helpful, though, if you are NVIDIA and you want to write that shareholder letter in Jensen's voice. These are actual use cases by actual customers. Very useful if you're trying to get all of the researchers in your group to post on LinkedIn more. It is very helpful if you've got founders who are just so nitpicky on how they want everything on the website to sound. Um, it's very helpful if you are an IR department trying to scale internationally and everything needs to sound like, HQ wrote it. So these profiles are incredibly important, and the way that we've built it is truly a tech breakthrough. You can think about it as almost a second model that post processes everything that comes out of the full stack solution, and that is a model that has been fine tuned on a what a company considers to be great examples of its brand voice.
Okay, so can you talk a little bit about the future of work as you see it? Because your product is involved in a lot of work processes. And what's it going to look like in 10 years?
I think we are going to do a lot more face to face and via voice. I, think about kind of the life of a CEO, and I see myself kind of going through a day in 10 years where I'm engaging a lot of my agentic flows via speaking to my phone. Um, and then when I am at work, I'm not stuck in front of a computer. I'm really interacting with human beings who really are all basically async and simultaneously engaging with their AI workflows as well.
Do you also see a future where you're introducing AI agents into your staff?
For us, agentic AI is really about, very powerful AI being able to do work both in writer and across the systems that folks care about that are associated with the work that they need done. And we're absolutely working on that.
You're a woman in technology, and you're not just a woman in tech, but an executive who's a woman. So, what's that like? And do you see more women coming and attaining leadership positions in tech?
I don't think about it that often. Honestly, there's so many women at Writer, so many of our um, partners and customers are women. So many of our buyers are women. But I do understand that that is special. We sometimes will get the CIO on the phone, and oftentimes it's she, and she'll have four people on the phone who are also women from the vendor side. Me, a sales manager, an AE, a solution architect, and there are those times where, and that happens frequently, where I'm reminded that our team looks a lot different than a lot of other tech companies out there. And I'm really, really proud of that. It looks different on lots of different dimensions. But we're just out there trying to hire the very best people. There's just no question about that. We need the very best people in the world to be as competitive as we need to beat everybody that is after the enterprise customer here. And we show up and deliver literally the most value they have seen ever from any vendor. The number of customers that have told me that, it makes me really proud. And absolutely, a diverse team has a lot to do with that.
Thank you so much for joining us today, May. We really appreciate the time. I know you're very busy. Thank you again for joining us. To our audience and our listeners, please connect with May on LinkedIn. For our platform, please go to High on Tech to watch the video portion of this. If you're listening on video, please join us on the audio version on all platforms where podcasts are listening to. Thank you, and we will see you next time on the Targeting AI podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.